CNN links Hannity to De Niro bomb, Sean makes them pay for it big time. Whenever something bad happens, it seems like fake news media blames Trump conservatives for it. With the latest bomb package incident, some in MSM have been in overdrive trying to say it's Trump's fault. And now they are trying to blame Sean Hannity, also. Well, Sean is not taking it lying down. He's hitting back. Just minutes after the identity of the suspect behind this week's vicious and hateful attacks on our democracy was released, the mainstream media wasted no time in finding the true culprit behind the despicable acts conservatives, Republicans, and President Trump. CNN's John Avlon went so far as to blame the suspicious package sent to actor Robert De Niro on one particular Fox News host. We do not know who it is. We do not know the motive, but what's fascinating is you see a direct pattern between the president's attacks on Twitter and stage being echoed and amplified by Fox News and other folks who contribute, said Avlon. Why Robert De Niro? Well, one of the things that I found was that on October 15, Sean Hannity was doing a whole segment blasting De Niro for things he said on the Alec Baldwin show of all things, he added. Avlon conveniently forgets to mention the disgusting and hateful rhetoric spewed by De Niro in recent months, screaming FK Trump at the Tony Awards. I mean, he's so blatantly stupid, Mr. De Niro said. He's a punk, he's a dog, he's a pig, he's a con, a bullshit artist, a mutt. The Destroy Trump media has completely ignored the left's vile calls for violence since the president's inauguration, from Madonna fantasizing about blowing up the White House to leading Democrats begging their supporters to confront Trump aides at restaurants and gasoline stations. I will not stop pointing out the calls for violence against President Trump as I have from day one. I deplore all violence of any kind. Legitimate and fair criticism of media bias and merely calling out CNN's obvious political agenda as a network that spends virtually every hour of every day demonizing a president they clearly hate is not only warranted but a healthy exercise of freedom of speech. Sean Hannity. I deplore all violence of any kind. Legitimate fair criticism of media bias merely calling out CNN's obvious political agenda that spends almost all day demonizing a president they hate is not only warranted but a healthy exercise of freedom of speech. I have said over and over again that we must protect all Americans and every American president, including President Obama with whom I have deep and profound political differences. What fake news CNN and Avlon are engaging in a desperate attempt to exploit and politicize the actions of an unhinged lunatic and conflate it with the fair and warranted criticism CNN deserves. When Steve Scalise was shot on a baseball field by a fierce supporter of Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, here's what I said: it would be wrong, illogical and unfair to blame Bernie for the actions of a sick and deranged supporter. From the Kavanaugh hearings where people like Senator Graham were spit on and afterwards, we have been witnessing mini-mobs confronting fellow citizens and having them chased out of restaurants. Pam Bondi, Sarah Sanders, Secretary Nielsen, Ted Cruz and his wife, Senator McConnell and his wife. Boulders have been thrown through the window of Rep. Kevin McCarthy. The GOP headquarters in NYC has been vandalized. The silence from the media and Democratic Party is deafening. CNN flat out refuses to condemn these mobs. I have been saying for months that the violent rhetoric and calls for public confrontations from leading Democrats including Eric Holder and Hillary Clinton will lead to a devastating conclusion. We take out our political differences at the ballot box in this country. My heart goes out to those who have had to deal with these threats. I have been through more than I am willing to make public, including white powder mailed to me. I had an assistant scared to death for hours on end in isolation as a result of one incident. And I have had numerous other real threats in my career, myself and my family. Lunatics have no political boundaries, the Unabomber, the shooter of Steve Scalise and others. To suggest honest vigorous debate and criticism as the motivating force behind one fringe and violent individual is intellectually lazy and, frankly, a cheap attempt to capitalize off of a serious incident. Saying CNN is fake news or CNN sucks is a far cry from advocating for violence. I deplore all violence of any kind. Legitimate and fair criticism of media bias and merely calling out CNN's obvious political agenda as a network that spends virtually every hour of every day demonizing a president they clearly hate is not only warranted but a healthy exercise of freedom of speech.